that the Pope, I forget which Pope it was, Pope Pius something, was a righteous man because of the number of Jews that were saved by the Catholic Church. Now I've given you some evidence. Where's your evidence that those Jews that were saved by the Catholic Church were only saved because they were willing to convert? Where's your evidence to that claim?
The fact that there were whole organisations that had to go into the monasteries and find the Jewish children, despite the fact that they were untraceable.
So you've not actually proven your claim then?
And the people who ran
where's your proof?
The people who ran the monasteries refused to reveal their identity.
So you haven't proven your claim then? You haven't proven your claim. You haven't proven your claim. You've made a completely different claim to your original claim, and you're dressing it up like it's your original claim. Your original claim was they only saved Jews that were willing to convert. You've provided zero evidence for that fact.
Okay.
However, what you have demonstrated is that the Catholic Church, one demonstrated, it's because you're just not shutting up. What you have demonstrated though, is that the Catholic Church did save thousands of Jews.
Only those that wanted to convert.
Where's your evidence?
The fact that the Pope refused to speak up against the Holocaust, the fact that many Catholics and Protestants across Europe collaborated with the Nazis in the rounding up of the Jews.
Right, so let's just remember the claim. The claim was that the Catholic Church only saved Jews who were willing to convert. How does the evidence, in quote marks, that the Pope didn't speak out against the Holocaust prove that those that were brought into the monasteries were only brought in because they were willing to convert? How does the fact that there were Catholics, there were Catholics and Christians who got in bed with the Nazis prove that those that were brought into the monasteries were only brought in because they were willing to convert? In other words, you have not connected your evidence to your claim. Your claim remains unproven. But do you dispute?
What proof do you have that they were willing to
Yes, I'm going to answer it. I'm asking you a question.
You haven't let me ask the question.
Do you dispute that Jews were hidden in monasteries and churches across Europe by the Catholic Church? Are you disputing that? Right. So you accept my claim.
And do you dispute the fact that I was saying earlier that Christians have used brute force right down the ages into the 20th century to massacre Jews?
I'm not disputing that there's been anti-Christian pogroms. No.
Anti-Jewish pogroms.
Did I not say that?
I said anti-Christian.
Sorry, my apologies. Anti-Semitic pogroms. Not disputing that. It's a total fact.
So the point that I was
What's your point?
The point that I was trying to make, which you kind of diverted away from,
I really didn't.
was that I was originally saying that the Jews have been here down the ages.
Yes.
Been part of the culture, and you were saying that the Christians never tried to force us to convert. If they would have done,
that's not what I said.
If they would have done, then we wouldn't be here because we're too small to resist.
That's not what I said.
My point was that when they did try and do this,
you've mischaracterized.
You mischaracterized what I've been saying.
You're trying to steal all my best lines.
My point was that you were saying that if they wouldn't have tried to turn against us with force, we wouldn't have been able to stand up against it, we wouldn't be around today. My point was no, because there were Christians turning against us right into the 20th century and we still had to fight.
Right, no, and here's where you mischaracterized me. Because what I said was, because your argument was that Christian civilization would not be the same without the Jewish people. And I said that within the Christian worldview, there was always the calling of the Jewish people to become Christians. But that was not done by force. As in, that within the Christian worldview, there isn't a teaching that says, put a dagger to a Jew's neck and force them to become a Christian.
But that's what's been happening.
That is, allow me to finish. Allow me to finish. Now he says that that's what the Church Fathers all said, so please bring me that as evidence. So where's your evidence that the Church Fathers taught that we should stick a dagger to the Jew's neck and force them to become Jewish? Where's your evidence?
Ever heard of something called the Inquisition?
He's talking about the Church Fathers, you're talking about the Inquisition. They're two different things. Which Church Father taught that? Don't know. And again, this is what you're doing. Again and again, this is what you're doing. Let's be clear. Let's be clear. I am not denying that in church history there has been horrendous acts of anti-Semitism. However, what I am saying, and please try to listen to what I'm saying, is that Christianity has never had a teaching that would justify that anti-Semitism as a practice. Therefore, the very fact that there has always been Jews in Europe is testament to the fact that Christians have always had a place in our heart, in our societies, for Jews. But that is not different from saying that all Jews should become Christians, because I believe all Jews should become Christians, and if they do, that would be consistent to a Christian civilization. Just like all Muslims should become Christians, and all pagans, and all atheists.
Jews have always had a place in Christian society.
Yes.
What about the Inquisition?
The Inquisition was against fake converts from Islam. The Spanish Inquisition is what you're talking about.
You know why they were
And
you know why there were so many fake converts?
let's be clear.
They were forced to convert.
Yes, exactly. Yes, absolutely.
And who organised
Absolutely. The King of Spain.
The
King of Spain.
Who gave him the backing? Who gave him the?
It wasn't the Pope.
Of course it was.
It was not the Pope.
Inquisition.
You don't know the history. That's why it's called the Spanish Inquisition.
That was part of the
It was
Inquisition.
part of no.
Spanish Inquisition.
Inquisitions were locally organised.
Carried all over Europe.
There was an
until
office of
1870.
Inquisition.
The Inquisition only stopped with
The
collapse of the
Inquisition.
Papal States.
You are confusing the office of the Inquisition inside the Vatican with the Spanish Inquisition. They
what
are
do you think the
not
office of the
the
Inquisition
same
did?
thing. The Inquisition in Spain was organised and funded by the Spanish monarchy. And yes, it was because there was forced conversions from Islam to Christianity after the liberation of Spain.
Sorry, the Spanish Inquisition.
One second. The point that you're making is that this proves that across Europe and across the entire Christian world, there was no place for Jews. You do not prove your point from an isolated event.
You said Jews have always had a place within
Yes,
Christian Europe.
they have.
Not in the Spanish Inquisition when they were all kicked out. Or in many
Which is
other wrongs.
an isolated incident that happened after the liberation of
Crusades.
Spain
And the Crusades,
in the
and the pogroms, and the
1400s.
Holocaust.
So now answer me this question.
This was not isolated.
Answer me this question.
Sorry.
Let me ask you a question.
It was part of a history of persecution.
How did those Jews survive? How did those Jews survive 1400 years in a Christian civilization?
Divine intervention.
Before the Spanish Inquisition.
Divine intervention.
Why did they survive? Were they politically tolerated?
Sometimes.
There you go. Sometimes. Sometimes. So therefore, no, I'm accepting that you're wrong. I'm accepting that you're wrong. I'm accepting that you're wrong.
So there was a time.
No, I'm not saying that.
There wasn't a time.
No, what I'm saying, and if you could actually listen,
Every single century of
And
Christian
every
history
single-
has involved major massacres against the
and every single century of Christian history has preserved the Jewish community in Europe. That is why there are Jews in Europe.
The only reason the Jews today
And there's
have
always been Jews in Europe.
The only Jews only became equal citizens when the church lost its power. And
I agree.
If not for the fact, if the church was still had political power, we would still be in ghettos.
I agree.
You kept us apart.
I'm not denying that.
You shoved us in ghettos.
I am not
for
denying that.
hundreds of years, and now you're saying that we've always had a part in your society.
But you have.
Only, as you said, because you believe that we're going to convert to Christianity, or you're hoping.
We hope that you do. Of course. So, but let's go back. Let's go back to the root.
Who we are or how we are now.
As Christians, we call all people to become Christian. As Christians, we call all
So
people to
basically,
become Christians.
you're being all embracing. You're going to welcome everyone as long as we're like you.
We know, in terms of the Christian faith, we call all people to become Christians. That is our faith. That is what we do.
But if we don't, then we don't really belong in your society.
What? No. This is once again your misreading of history. The fact that the Jews were preserved in Europe demonstrates that Christians had an understanding of European civilization that included the Jewish people being Jewish.
It means that you basically didn't succeed in your goal of
Explain to
getting
me.
rid of us.
Well, you say that. Your goal. Where's your evidence that Christians had a goal to force Muslims? Sorry, to force Jews to become Christians?
All the wars, the Pope.
Dude, bro, just think logically, right? the Jewish people, you would agree.
Our history is dominated by persecution.
I accept that. The Jewish people in Europe have never been in a position where they could have opposed Caesar. Were not in a position where they could have opposed the kings. Would you agree that that's a fair statement in history?
Yeah.
And would you agree that where a king has decided that he doesn't want the Jews in his land, that they have always been able to force the Jews out, like happened in England?
Not always.
Give me an example where the Jews were able to resist a king who said, I don't want any Jews in my land. Prague. Go on, what happened?
It's like it was the 19th century. They tried to evict us.
The 19th century is post-Enlightenment, so it's post-Christian.
Yes, no. It's still a Christian.
No. It's post-Enlightenment, so it's post-Christian. You said, so give me an example in the Middle Ages where the Jews were able, after a king had said, I don't want any Jews in my land, the Jews were able to say, try and get us out. We'll stop you. Go on, give me an example.
Spain.
What happened?
1492, we were all evicted.
Thank you. All evicted.
But there were always Jews remaining.
They were hiding, right? In hiding, right.
They maintain their identity, and they maintain their identity as Maranas, is what they were called. To this day, there's still a community of...
No. Maranas were people that gave the outward trappings of going to church.
But they still maintain their Jewish identity.
Okay,
so therefore they weren't able to get rid of them.
I agree, in this instance. So what we're talking about, though, is the fact that where a Christian king who does something that I would agree is unjust and wrong, of saying I don't want any Jews in my land, or Jews all have to become Christians, the Jews had zero power to stop them. They had to go underground. My point being, the very fact that Christians did not do that consistently through history, and have not done that consistently through history, demonstrates the fact that Christians always allowed Jews to exist. It's not part of our worldview.
In ghettos.
That's just the historical reality.
Why do you need to give us permission?
Because I'm just talking about the historical reality. I'm just talking about the historical reality. I'm not making comment on its moral obligation.
We existed in ghettos. We were kept apart from society.
Yes.
That's hardly tolerating our existence.
Let's do a contrast. Tell me, in Saudi Arabia, inside Saudi Arabia, how many Jewish communities have existed inside Saudi Arabia for the last 1400 years? Sorry? Not many. I mean, can you point to me the historical Jewish community of Medina, for example?
I think there wasn't.
There wasn't? When did they disappear? Shortly after Islam started. So in the heart of the Islamic world, the very place where Islam emerged, the very place where Islam emerged, there are no continuous historical Jewish communities because Muhammad had them all kicked out. Where did Christianity start?
I'll tell you where
did Christianity start?
In Israel.
In Israel. And can you point to a continuous historical Jewish community inside Palestine?
Most of these centuries between then and now, let me give my answer.
Go on.
Most of the centuries between then and now, Palestine was ruled by the Muslims, so the Christians can't take credit for that.
No, hold on. We ruled Palestine from the 4th century to the 7th century. So we had hundreds of years in which, if we had been inclined to do so, like Muhammad was inclined to do so, we could have forced the Jews out.
The Romans tried to force us
when they
out.
were pagan in the 70 AD.
They didn't succeed, and it just goes
No,
to
hold
show
on. You're talking about, you're trying to merge what the Roman pagans did in 70 AD.
No, can you let me make my point?
Hundreds of years of Christian rule from the 4th century to the 7th century. You're a poor student of history, sir.
Can you let me make my
poor
point?
student of
Can you
history.
let me make my point?
Yeah, go on.
Your point was that if a government tries to force us out, then there's no way we'll be able to remain.
No, Christian. No. Mischaracterizing me again. I said that Christians,
hold on a second.
in a Christian civilization, if they had been inclined to stop Jews living in their lands, there's plenty of evidence to show that they... Then deal with my point, don't mischaracterize.